My white husband yelled at me. I didn't mean to ruin a 20-year marriage. It was just a fling. You have to understand me. You have to forgive me. I looked at him silently. He didn't know what would happen next. His voice echoed through the living room like a desperate man, begging the judge for mercy. I didn't mean to ruin a 20-year marriage. It was just a fling. You have to understand me. You have to forgive me. The man pleading before me was my husband, David, a man I had built 2 decades of my life with, raised children, shared dreams, endured struggles. His face was pale, his hands trembling, his blue eyes wide with panic. He wasn't the confident attorney who used to command courtrooms. He was reduced to a man, begging to keep what he'd broken. I sat motionless on the couch, my hands folded in my lap, my eyes fixed on him. I said nothing. My silence was heavier than any words. The tick of the grandfather clock in the corner filled the void between us, marking each second that I refused to speak. He kept pacing, his voice breaking. It didn't mean anything. She was just a distraction. You and I, we've built a life together. Doesn't that count for something? My chest burned, but I refused to cry. I had shed enough tears already, silent ones in the bathroom when the children were asleep, hidden ones on long drives where no one could see me. Tonight, there would be no tears. My silence was my shield. And yet, behind that shield, I was calculating, watching, waiting. Because while David thought his betrayal was still a secret, kept between us, he didn't know I had already taken steps. He thought tonight was the night of his confession. But for me, it was the night of his reckoning. The fling he admitted to. That was no ordinary fling. Her name was Heather, his junior associate at the firm. Ambitious, clever, the type of woman who smiled sweetly while sharpening a knife behind her back. And while David thought I would collapse under the weight of his confession, he didn't realize Heather had already reached out to me. She hadn't done it out of guilt. She did it out of greed. 2 nights earlier, she sent me an email. I could still see the words glowing on my screen. Venom wrapped in polite phrasing. If you want me gone, it'll cost you. Otherwise, I'll make sure everyone knows what David and I have been doing. I remember staring at that message, rage curling in my stomach like fire. My husband had cheated, and his mistress thought I'd pay her to disappear. But instead of replying, I made a few calls. Quiet ones, careful ones. Calls that David had no idea about. While he played house with his little associate, I was setting the chessboard. Now, as he begged in front of me, his words cracked against my silence, like waves against a stone cliff. He thought I was deciding whether to forgive him. He thought my silence meant hesitation, that my stillness was weakness. He didn't know the storm I had already unleashed. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I spoke. My voice was calm, deliberate, and cold. You're right, David. We built a life together, but you built lies with her. And you don't even realize what you've lost yet. Confusion flickered in his eyes. He stopped pacing. His mouth opened slightly. What do you mean? But I didn't answer. Instead, I reached for my phone resting on the coffee table. With one simple press of a button, the living room filled with another voice. Shrill, impatient, greedy. Heather's voice. Has promised me he'd leave his wife. If he doesn't, I'll expose everything. Every shady deal I helped him cover at the firm. He'll go down with me. David froze. His face turned ashen. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The confident attorney, who once convinced juries with silver-tongued arguments, now stood speechless in his own living room, cornered by his own choices. Because in that moment, he finally realized this wasn't about a fling. This was about everything. And my silence had only been the beginning. The next morning, David's world collapsed. It began with a phone call from his law firm. The shrill ring shattered the quiet of our kitchen, where I sat across from him at the breakfast table, sipping my coffee slowly, deliberately. David snatched up the phone like it was a lifeline, fumbling as if his hands had forgotten how to hold it. "Yes, this is David," he said, voice hoarse. There was a pause. I watched his face shift from confusion to dread. "What? No, that's impossible. Who would say that?" His voice rose in pitch. He pressed the phone tighter to his ear, as though he could strangle the words coming through it. Another pause. "But no, I never authorized." His tone cracked, desperate now. His hand shook violently. As he finally hung up, he looked at me then, face pale and sweaty, like the walls had closed in around him. "The board just suspended me," he whispered. "They said there are accusations, documents, emails linking me to fraud. They said Heather sent them." I tilted my head slightly, stirring my coffee as though he were telling me about the weather. "And are they true?" He swallowed hard, lips trembling, but no sound came out. The silence was my answer. David dropped his vase into his hands, groaning. "My God, I could lose my license. Everything I've worked for, gone." I leaned forward, setting my cup down with a soft click. My voice was calm, measured, but every word was a blade. "You mean everything we worked for? Don't forget, David, I stood by you when you built that career. I carried this family while you chased cases at midnight. I was your partner, but you threw me away for someone who just sold you to the highest bidder." His bloodshot eyes lifted to mine, shame etched deep into every wrinkle of his face. "What do I do? Tell me, please. I'll do anything." For a moment, I almost pitied him. The once powerful attorney, now reduced to a desperate, broken man. Almost. I rose slowly, walked to the window, and let the morning light spill across me. For the first time in years, I felt taller than him, stronger. "You want advice?" I asked, still facing the glass. "Lawyers like you always told me, protect your assets." So that's what I did. When I turned back, I was holding a thick folder I'd hidden for weeks. His eyes locked onto it like it was a loaded gun. Inside were bank statements, property deeds, transfer papers, all signed, all stamped, all legally shifted into my name, while he was busy sneaking around with Heather. His jaw dropped. You moved everything?" I nodded calmly, laying the folder on the table between us, like evidence in a trial. 20 years of marriage taught me one thing, David. You plan for storms before they arrive, and I knew one was coming. His face twisted, disbelief mixing with panic. He stumbled back, collapsing into his chair as though gravity had suddenly doubled. "You've destroyed me." "No," I said softly, walking closer, each step deliberate. "You destroyed yourself. I just made sure I'd survive it." His chest heaved, his lips quivered, but no words could save him now. The great attorney, stripped of arguments, stripped of power. I picked up my bag from the counter, slinging it over my shoulder. The sound of the zipper closing was final, like a judge's gavel. "You can't just walk away," he shouted after me, voice breaking like glass. "Please, Sarah." I turned one last time at the doorway, locking eyes with the man who had once been my everything, and was now nothing but a cautionary tale. "You said it was just a fling," I said, my voice as steady as stone. "But it wasn't. It was the match that burned down your life. And now, David, you finally understand." I paused, letting the silence stretch, letting it crush him. I don't forgive you. I outlived you. Then I walked out, leaving him in that crumbling house of lies, knowing he'd never recover. Not from Heather, not from the firm, and certainly not from losing me. Because betrayal doesn't just end a marriage. Sometimes it rewrites the story entirely.